cool. So I'm going to be talking to you today about Centronian BBS and what it's like to be a sysop in 2017. So I started running this BBS 2 years ago. I started getting into the telnet BBS scene about 4 years ago. I was a kid during the 80s when I had a C64 back in the day, and I think my awareness that there was a world outside of just our local disc was the Q-Link disc that we had in that came with some software we got, and then it only came like years later I became aware that there was an actual BBS scene while I was growing up, and it really interested me. So I did some hardware hacking, built my own null modem cable, and got my C64 online for the first time, and it just blew my mind. And also I found that it was kind of addictive, because you're connecting to forums and essentially, right? You're having really good conversations with like-minded people, and you compare that to something like Facebook, where sometimes it seems really kind of superficial and empty. The BBSs were really personal, so I really liked that about them. So much so that I decided to start running my own, which was Centronian BBS. So the BBS is based in Victoria, BC. It started on February 6, 2016, and it's been running essentially non-stop since then. I've probably had around 3 days of downtime during all that time, and it was always due to the Raspberry Pi screwing up. The C64 has been rock solid the whole time. I've swapped them out, I started to see things going a little weird with the RAM on one of them, and I swapped it out, but nothing. So the problem has been modern hardware running the BBS, which is really interesting. It's running Ultracom BBS version 1.6. This is software from '93. Right now I'm using the stock software. This is a derivative of Ivory, if anyone's ever seen Ivory BBS. I started out running Ivory. It was actually a really colorful modified version that Chameleon did, Rob Wright. And he sent me the software in the mail, and I got these floppy disks. That's how I started running the BBS, with a floppy disk got in the mail of his personal Ivory mod. And then Ultracom is kind of a more advanced version of Ivory, so I was able just to migrate into this new version. One of my objectives when I started the BBS was to use the oldest C64 that I own, which is a 1982 made in Canada C64 5-pin video. And so I recently switched over to using that. Before that I was using a 1983 made in the USA one. Didn't feel right. So now we're 82 made in Canada. There are 8 subs, so our message boards. There's 171 users as of this morning. Hopefully it goes up. And this is the online base of the telnet base of the VIC-64, the Commodore 64 users, enthusiasts of Victoria. Okay, so this is the layout of the BBS, the system diagram. So of course we have our Commodore 64 as the core, and the main storage, the system drives are on the SD to IEC. I started out using a 1571 and the 1541 Ultimate, and that works. But the 1541 Ultimate has the problem that it emulates a 1541 drive perfectly. And that means it has the same problems with file seek times being slow and whatnot, also like file number restrictions. So eventually I switched over to using an SD to IEC, and these are really simple devices, but they're also really quick. And so I have all of my system that's made into partitions, and if you use the root partitions, you can use it directly with rel files and whatnot. So the system drives on here. I have the 1541 Ultimate, which was putting Jiffy DOS on the system, flashing it in. Since then I've burned a EEPROM, so there's a Jiffy DOS kernel in there. And the 1571, I had it as part of the system for a very long time, but right now it's offline. I just don't have the space where I have it right now. So as you can see, everything's connected together. All the drives are connected together into the IEC port, but they also go through a Zoom floppy. And the Zoom floppy allows me to use a Raspberry Pi to dynamically update content on the BBS. So I can do things like bring in the latest news, like the latest news, CBC News, for example, parse it, turn it into PETSCI format, and have it updated to my BBS daily. So the BBS has the latest daily news from the CBC, NASA, and Commodore News.
Using RSS too?
RSS, so I'll parse the RSS files, or sometimes the full websites. Yeah. So I have my own software. So on the Raspberry Pi, it does a lot of stuff. It handles the telnet connection, which comes in through here, the voltage shifter. It goes right into the GPIO ports. I was using a USB adapter to start with, but I found the GPIO ports directly give a really, really clean, stable signal with no noise. And so I used that, and it's been working great. I've had to do a bit of basically the drivers don't exist, so I had to do some of my own hardware or writing software for it. But yeah, so that's the basic setup. And of course then it goes out to the outside world through the router. So I'm going to show you guys what the actual BBS looks like. So here's so it's on these cubbies, these kind of IKEA style cubbies. And you've got the 1541 Ultimate, and then the SD-IEC here, and then the user port. So this is just a user port cable. I have one similar on the table over there. And then this is the SD-IEC. If you run a BBS and you want to use an SD-IEC for your BBS, it's really important that you get one of the new ones that have the latest firmware, because these ones will handle REL files correctly. REL files are used for things like user information, like the user, the passwords and all the user data. But these things are really fast, especially with Jiffy DOS. You get really, really good performance out of the SD-IEC. So all of this is connected to a Zoom floppy. So this is underneath it, one of the cubbies. They have the Zoom floppy stuck to the wall there, and also the Raspberry Pi. The Zoom floppy, I had to modify the IEC cable. I had to take the reset line out of it. I found this by trial and error. Every time you try to do something with the Zoom floppy, it would reset the BBS, which didn't work very well. So if you cut the reset line and the cable, then you can use the Zoom floppy to update the files without rebooting the bus, resetting the bus. So that was a kind of a eureka moment when I got that working. Because now that this thing works, you can do a lot of really cool stuff. It's kind of more modern than you'd have with a traditional BBS system. So the Zoom floppy hooks into the Pi, and then the Raspberry Pi so here's the GPIO ports. They go through this voltage shifter, and that's how it connects to the outside world. This also serves as our home media center. Look at this is a 3 terabyte drive, 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte. So this is where all our movies and stuff run. But so a lot of the problem I've had with this has been the Raspberry Pi not being stable. So I guess this is the difference between, back in the day you would have run a BBS with your modem, right? You would have plugged into the phone line, that's it. But now you need to have a telnet gateway, because no one has landlines anymore. There's very, very few dial-up BBSs. So so the Pi, you need some sort of PC to handle the telnet connection, and with a Hayes modem emulator, which connects to the C64, the machine, right? So what I found was the Raspberry Pi kept getting corrupted file system. If you ever leave a Raspberry Pi on for years, any sort of power fluctuations will eventually corrupt the file system. So I use an SSD drive right here on the side. And that's what it runs on now for USB. And now it's been stable for several months now. But if you ever try doing that, having a Raspberry Pi on for a long time, you're going to have to do something like that, an external drive. Okay, so, and one thing that was necessary was getting a UPS. So the entire system is on a UPS. And so I can shut it down and it will run by itself for over an hour. So any brownouts, power outages, it just keeps the thing running nice and stable. Since I put this in, I've had 0 problems. Just smooths out the power. Well, like I said, the main issues are running the PC side of things, the Raspberry Pi side of things. The Commodore side has been really, really, really stable. And so this is what the whole setup looks like. I've got my Vectrex beside it. I just kind of sit there and play games while I watch callers. We have one of these backup monitors. I think I kind of broke there. Some dead SID chips on it. But yeah, so then all of the Raspberry Pi, the Zoom floppy is all in here, and then below it is the UPS. So just sitting in our living room, kind of taking up a little bit of room, but it's a bit of our piece of our furniture. But yeah, it's functional. It's functional, exactly. Yeah. So, the main difference between this BBS and an old school BBS is the fact that I can have dynamic content on it that I can get off the internet. So, using the Raspberry Pi as the gateway, I've randomly selected intro screens that are shown as soon as you connect, even if, for example, if the C64 is down for some reason, I can have it set so that the Raspberry Pi will display a PETSCII intro screen, so that you'll connect and it won't seem like the BBS is down. You'll just get, oh, the sysop is hacking, something like that, right? So whenever I do hardware changes, I'll change it so that the sysop is hacking or whatever screen. It will appear to you, and you won't think the BBS is broken. I also have randomly selected PETSCII picture of the day. So I've got an art collection that I've been growing, something I put on recently, and so this is running from the BBS itself. The Zoom floppy will copy over a new PETSCII picture every day. The news files are updated regularly. I also take the system files off the BBS drive and put them onto the Pi and calculate statistics, which I'll show you. So like usage statistics and graffiti, and there's also doing system backups. So one really neat thing that I wasn't really expecting about running a BBS was the community involvement. So I started running this BBS because Chameleon, he kind of encouraged me. He said, "Oh, I've got this software, you should try running it." And I agreed, and it's been great. But also other people have contributed art to me. So these are the different artwork that's been submitted to me, logos for the BBS since we started up. And so these ones are all from Chameleon, and then this one's from Derision, this one's from Fusion Plus, it's in northern BC. And that was really neat. So it's like just people I always get random emails like, here's some more artwork. So that's been really cool. So it's nice to see the community run with it and want to contribute to the BBS. So the heart of a BBS, at least today, are the subs. So these are the message boards. So this BBS has 8 message boards. I've done, the stats are we get about 4 posts a day. So it's pretty good. It's active, so every day there's something new to read. It's not as much as, say, Particles. Has anyone gone on Particles BBS? It'll get like 50 posts a day. It's insane. Like I haven't visited in a week and now I have 200 messages to read. This one's active but not overwhelming. And it's great conversation. So the people that are connecting are people like us that have similar interests, and you get some really good conversation going. And I think that's what keeps people coming back. Is just having good conversation. It's kind of this fine balance being the sysop, not posting too much and not posting too little. If you don't post, some BBSs the sysops don't post, and then it kind of turns into a ghost town because it's like you're visiting the person. You're literally logging into their house, right? This is my living room, and but so if you stay active, then it makes the users active as well, encourages them. So it's kind of striking this fine balance. You don't want to also be like writing your diary, your journal, whatever, on the BBS, and like people are like, oh, I'm sick of this guy. But yeah, so this is this is the artwork you see when you go into the subs, and these are title screens. Actually, these aren't active right now. These are the banners that you'd see for each sub when you switch subs. I'm going to be switching to a new version of CMBBS in the future, and then I'll put all this artwork in. Right now, yeah, so Ultracom. So with the Raspberry Pi, I can generate stat screens. This is the stat screen that shows up when you log in. So it gives you a 7-day report. And this is one thing I wanted to add was this post ratio. And that's because you'll get people who call in and they just read the stuff and don't post. So this is my way of like poking them a little bit. It's like if the post ratio is low, you guys are being lazy. You guys gotta post, right? Because it feeds into itself. If people log on, they don't see anything new, they don't post, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. Right? So this has actually helped. Since I put that in, people start posting in all the subs, and I put in all the different subs to see where's the latest activity. So now people will go to software. Before they'd find they'd always go to the lounge, the first sub, and then they wouldn't bother checking the other stuff. Adding this in has really forced people, well, not forced people, but shown them that there's other things there to read that are new, and so that it's made the other subs be more active. And then here is that's the 7-day report, and then here we have the posts per day. So that's for the last 30 days. And so you can see it's kind of neat looking at this to see when there's peaks. Right now it's kind of random. You can see it's pretty steady, but sometimes you'll see weekly variations. Another thing about BBSs, especially now, it's very much a hobby. Like during the 80s and early 90s, it was the way people communicated, right? And the way you got your wares or your software. Now people do it when they have some spare time. And so you really see it change with the seasons. I find when it's unbearably hot in the summer, especially in the southern states, you'll get a lot of callers from that area. When it turns really, really cold here, you'll get a lot of callers from here, for example. So it really depends where people are calling from. I'll find I get a lot of Australian callers when the weather's crappy there. Yeah, quite a few Australian callers actually. I had like 1 week where I had like 6 of them sign up. And they were like the main people on the board for some reason. But yeah. So we also have the library section, which has these news things that are updated daily. Actually, the Commodore news is every Friday. But then I have movies on here. So I've updated those every once in a while. I'm due for a changeover. So this is one thing I was searching for ages was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Petsky movie. That took forever to find, but I finally got that on the board. That was pretty neat. Yeah, and so have you guys seen Petsky movies before? Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I'll show you. We'll connect to the video. They're pretty neat. They're like watching really crappy text comics, but they're yeah, they're cool.
Is someone in the Star Wars one?
Yeah. The Star Wars one's ASCII.
Yeah, I understand the difference. I'm just wondering, it's similar kind of concept.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, the ASCII ones are neat, but these are full color.
Full 16.
Exactly. Yeah. So then, of course, so right now the main section of the BBS are the forums, the subs, and that's where we get 90% of the action. But there's also the file transfer areas. I think in the past this was the part of the BBS that was the dominant part. Now things are so different, right? You can just download any software you want, and if you're in the hobby, you generally have a way of transferring files. That being said, the BBSs are very active with first day releases, and especially with commercial releases. So, sorry if people are really anti-copyright or anti-copy, whatever, but you will find commercial releases, not necessarily here, but some of the other boards, that are still like, that just come out, people put the cracks on CSDB, the Commodore Scene database. They'll say, commercial software, you know where to find it. This is where you find it. You get the cracks. And so people I don't have to do this at all. I don't do any of this part of the BBS. People just upload stuff. People will download it from other places, upload it here, people spread wares, and then they'll have new files, and I'll just download them, and okay, cool, that's a neat game. And so there's the tools, some tools that some stuff I've worked on, and other people. And then there's also SID mixes. This guy Frisky, who runs the SID station, C64 radio.com. He's made some mixed discs, mixed floppies that he's put on there for me, which is pretty neat. And there's also VIC-20 and +4 file sections. Okay. So why don't we go and visit the BBS now? And I'm going to see if I can get it to work with my C64 here. If not, if that doesn't work in a second, I'll use the
I'll
C
switch over.
Is that?
I have the power.
Oh, can you flip it over?
No.
Okay. Okay, so okay, I am going to see if I can get online here. Hold on. And I'm going to show all you guys my password and everything. Okay. So this is a new modem. I just built it, and I haven't put the firmware on it yet. Or not that I haven't set the baud rate properly yet. So let's hold on. Let's go to here, set that, and we're going to go. Sorry, SB equals 100. Oh, this isn't working. Yeah, sorry, I don't have this thing set up properly. Yeah, why don't you switch it back? I'll just use CT term for now. Sorry. No worries. Yeah. Okay, let's switch that back. Okay, and then we'll go to. Okay, great. So I'm going to load up CG term. And so if you'd like to connect to the BBS, CG term is the best way to do it with a PC. Okay, so let's see if I can make this.
Oh, cool, Ubuntu.
It is Ubuntu, yeah. Does it work
Cool.
full screen? Oh, it's full screen on the other one. That's useless. Okay, anyway, I'll just do it here. So, and then you put in the port here. So Centronian.servebeer.com 6400. And so see, you've got the random thing coming up when you connect. And then with this software, you have to press Shift ampersand, which doesn't work on a PC. You don't have that key combination. So I made it automatically go into it so people don't get confused. So you have so this is the intro screen. This is what you see if you're not a user. And we'll see this. One thing you'll see, so this is going over Telnet, right? And as we know, the internet sends information in packets, right? If you were to connect to an old school BBS with a phone line, it's I think a lot more smooth. But with Telnet, sometimes you'll find it get a little bit bursty, depending on the connection. That's one thing that's it's not quite as good, but the fact that you can dial any BBS in the world and not worry about long distance is also pretty cool. If you're a new user, what you would do is you would put in some random password, right? And it'll search, and it's not going to find you. So if you want to sign up for the BBS, all you do is just put in your handle, and it will search to see if that exists. And if it doesn't, it'll ask if you want to make an account. And I'm going to say no. So I'll enter so you can use your number, or I'm user 1.
Does it matter what speed you connect at?
No, it doesn't. Yep.
This Serve Beer thing, is it like a free hosting site?
Yep. So, well, not exactly. It's a free DNS routing thing.
Oh.
So I host this at home, and it will just constantly update my home IP to that address.
For dynamic DNS, because your provider
Dynamic.
Because your provider changes your IP address.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but how does it keep track of that?
So on the Raspberry Pi, I have a little program that's constantly sending out the IP address. Yeah, so that's something you have to set up.
How does it figure out the router's IP address? Global IP.
So this is the stats here. It just knows. It says what's my IP. It doesn't if config probably. I don't know what it does exactly. Yeah. So these are the stats as of this morning. So this is updated every day from the Raspberry Pi. And I also have it so it takes the last 5 graffiti posts and puts them up here. Because there's lots and lots of graffiti posts that happen, but I just put the last 5 up. So it gives you your stats. I've called 658 times. Lots of times. Okay, so now that you're in here, you see the main board here. So these are all the options you've got when you're in the BBS. So let's go to the subs. See the intro screen here. And there you go, now you have the subs. So you've got, shows you how many messages are in each one there. So in the first sub, let's read a message, read a couple messages here. World of Commodore. So I wrote this last night. I arrived in Toronto. We're at one of these seasonally slow periods. I'd imagine like on Christmas holidays it'll pick right up. So if you want to go to the next subs, you just put plus and you can jump through the subs like this, or backwards, for example. So I can go here. So there's a new message here, talking about floppies, which ones are good for Amiga floppies. Talking about PCB designs, yeah. So, okay, so let's exit out of this. Okay, so then from, oh, wait a minute, down, okay. So I can go back to the main menu, and there's this one-liners thing here you can see. So every time I press return, I will get a new one-liner. So it's these different things that make the BBS more interactive. Yeah. Okay, so why don't I show you guys, well I won't show you the transfer area, that's fine. And then, so let's log off, and you'll see the Petsky picture of the day here. I think today it's the Bartman. So our picture of the day. Yeah, so just a bunch of Petsky files that I found, and it uploads it every day.
To be honest, this looks nothing like Petsky.
That's Petsky. That's a pretty cool artwork. So the stuff I have is mostly older stuff. I need to write our conversion script. A lot of the stuff that's put out now, the Petsky, are PRG files, which aren't really useful for BBSs, but. There we are. Okay, so that's the BBS. Anyone have any questions?
Movie.
You want to see movies? Yeah. Movies. Okay, I'll go. Let's go on again.
Yeah.
Let's check out some movies. So I forgot to do that. Any requests for movies? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I have a question. So you
Yes.
you picked use BBS in order to run your system.
Mhm.
And I remember from the 80s that people very often had the choice between C-Base and use BBS.
So UCBC BBS is one of the more popular ones. Oh, sorry.
A lot of systems ran on C-Base at that time.
Yeah, and there's probably like 6, or no, at least 5 C-Base systems up right now. C-Base is great, and I considered running it, but I wanted to run a software that no one else was running. So that was the main reason I ran this. So you can abort out of it if you want. Yeah, no one's running Ultracom, and I was kind of asking my users, so what kind of software do you guys want to see me run? Right, because the original Ivory I was running was getting really restrictive. So I asked, and people said, UCBBS would be great. And I looked into it, I was like, oh, that's easy. It's literally an upgrade of Ivory.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, C-Base is great. It's really good, yeah. Yeah, C-Base, Color 64, Image, those are the main ones that I run. And yeah, this is the only UCBBS one. So I'll just, if you hit A, it aborts the screen you're on, so you can kind of jump ahead quicker.
How many users does the 64 handle at a time?
So I have 171 users right now, but I think I have the max up to 500.
500 users simultaneously on it?
Oh no, sorry, one at a time.
One at a time.
But I can have 500 users on my logs, or my whatever. I'm going to, when I upgrade to the next BBS software, CMBBS, it's going to work totally differently. It's going to leverage the SD to IEC to put everything in directories instead of using rel files. Anyway, I'll be able to have infinite number of users then. And then I want to have it so you've got a web term, you go in and like just, advertise it more. Right now I have to do everything manually. So if you log in here, if you sign up for the BBS, I'll have to manually verify you, like the old school way,
Yeah.
which is fine. But
I think that is a good idea, though.
it is and it
Because then
isn't.
you can, because like bots that just hog the.
You're
Mm,
not
I-
gonna- you're not gonna see bots log into a BBS like this.
No, you wouldn't. No. Okay, why don't we watch? Let's watch Jane's Rage. That looks kind of cool.
So I guess there's no option for multi-user, right?
There
You have
are.
to simulate multi-mode and stuff.
So the way you would do this to make this a multi-node BBS is if I had an LT kernel drive, something like that. They're not me. Oh, actually they're clones now. One of those drives allows you to have simultaneous C64s hooked up to it, and this software supports LT kernel drives. So I could have multiple 64s hooked into the same system drive that would share the files, and then I could have a multi-node system. I think Centipede on the 128 allows you to have multiple connections. It can be done, for sure it can. Especially if you turned off the screen, like on the Sysop side.
Yeah.
Right?
My eyes are bleeding.
Yeah, so this is pet ski movies. You can spend
I know.
hours looking at these.
Hours, especially at 204 baht.
Yeah. Yes, this is kind of funny. It's alright. It's funny with the movies. Most new users go to the movies, and some people will come and like watch all the movies and look at everything else, and they'll call 20 times and then never call again. They just got everything they need to probably. But I find for regular users, they never look at this stuff. But it's almost always the new users get a kick out of it. I have a user in Vancouver. He was the one who asked me to put news on for him because he exclusively uses his C64 for his business and his life. So he wanted to read the CBC News, so that's why I put it on. So he goes and he reads the news.
Cool.
But I think that's a cool head.
What's VIC 64? What is that?
Victoria Commodore Users Group.
Okay.
Commodore 64 Users Group. Yeah, Vic 64. In Victoria, everything, all the groups, the clubs are always Vic something, Vic something. So we're like, we're Vic 64.
We're a VIC 20?
There's no Vic 20. We include Vic 20 as an outline.
Workout setup.
No, we do all different vector computing stuff.
How many users are using 64 to log in? Do you know by any chance, or they have to
Of
tell
the
you?
regular users, probably at least half.
Do they tell
Some
you?
people,
or
yeah, some people will say. It's usually when they sign up, they'll say how they're connecting. Like
Okay.
you'll sign up for the BBS and there's a feedback section, and people will say, oh, I'm using this and this, such and such to connect. With the Wi-Fi modems, people have really, it's really increased the number of people connecting with real hardware. Before it was more the CG term, like I'm doing it here,
Yeah.
which works fine. But no, yeah, there's a lot that do, and Amigas as well.
Oh, okay.
There's people using 64 door on the Amiga. One interesting thing is that most of the callers are local to Pacific Northwest, I guess. There's a lot of like BC, from Alberta, and a lot from Washington State. All around Seattle for some reason. I'm the local BBS for these guys, and I've got like 6 callers from the Seattle area who call regularly, which is pretty neat. And then they talk about their local stuff, right? And like the neat thing is like, you know, we're across the water, so we can talk about the weather at the very least. Yeah. Yeah, so Shredder, block, whatever. So I don't know. Do you guys want me to keep watching it? Okay.
No. No.
Okay. So I'll show you one more thing, and that's I'll show you the news, how it appears. So if you were to look at the, so the daily news, why don't we look at the Commodore news, okay? So this is the Commodore News website. I think it's run by someone in the Netherlands. So I take that, parse it, and then put it into here. So that's kind of neat. So this is how I normally read the news. I'll go on and just on the BBS and get the headlines. So it's kind of nice. If you hit pause, you can, or P, you can pause it, and just hit P again, keep reading. It'd be nice to, so this software, part of the reason I want to upgrade or change it to something else is because I don't have the source for this. The source has been lost decades ago. And so it's impossible to modify this. So I can't add anything to it. And that's part of the reason why I have the Raspberry Pi and the Zoom floppy thing going. So I can add content dynamically.
Disassembler.
What's that?
What about a disassembler?
I could use a disassembler. The problem is that a lot of this, like this software there was a lot of custom commands, basic commands put in, and so the disassemblers don't work. You disassemble it and it's like, oh, this command doesn't exist, this command doesn't exist. It just turns into a mess.
So is the original written in Assembler or?
It's written in basic
Compiled
machine language.
basic?
Compiled basic. They're almost all compiled
Yeah,
basic.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Basic or something.
Pardon me?
Blitz basic or
They blitz them, yeah. And this is not even done with blitz. It's something else. Like it's something custom, unfortunately. So it's yeah. It's not gonna happen. But CMBBS, Commodore Mania BBS, the source code has been found for that, and that's I've been working with that a little bit, documenting it, and now you can use modern editors to do that. It's a lot easier. It's whatever. Yeah. Okay. So that was the Amiga news. So I think I will log off once more here. Oops. Log off, and we'll see the Bartman again. Okay. Okay. So, any more questions?
At the beginning of the presentation,
Yep.
you're talking about how the Pi is transmitting information. You're sending it to the IC card or over to the Ultimate?
I'm sending it to the user port. So the Raspberry Pi has TCPSer running on it. So I had to, so TCPSer it emulates a Hayes modem, and I had to modify it so that it would work with the software. The parity detection was off. Anyway, so it's running a modem emulator software, and it connects through the GPIO ports to the user port
Right.
through a voltage shifter,
Okay.
right? Because there are 3 volts, 3.3 on the GPIO, and it goes to a voltage shifter, 5 volts into the user port.
Right, but what about the dynamic content? You get
Oh, the dynamic content is going into the system drive directly, not through the 1541 Ultimate.
Not through the Ultimate, through the IC.
The reason, okay, so the 1541 Ultimate has Ethernet capabilities. The reason I don't use it is because it's very unstable. It'll work for a day or two, and then it will freeze.
Yeah, apparently he's got a fix for it, or knows of a fix or something like that in later firmwares. But
Oh,
yeah,
for the network connection freezing?
Yeah, even if you just tell it to the machine periodically, on
Mhm.
mine anyways, it just dies. You can't make proper connections. I found this out when I was trying to upload key over the USB key
Mhm.
over just FTP. Every time it makes a new connection, it counts up 1, and then after 255 or whatever, it craps out.
Okay.
Once he gets that firmware going, might fix the problem for you. But I was kind of interested in how you're getting the Pi to actually update files.
So it's going USB into the Zoom floppy, and then with this special cable, which has the reset pin removed,
Yes.
I can plug directly into the system drive, SD to IC, and upload or read and write files directly there.
So you've got some kind of CBM command to.
Yep. So I use OpenCBM in Linux.
So the files are stored on the Pi or on the
The files, so the files that are displayed to you are coming off the SD to IEC. So they're on the SD card, like plugged directly into the C64. Those files are updated with the Zoom floppy once a day. So once a day, I'll delete the files and rewrite them. And it takes a couple of minutes, maybe. I could even do it faster, but I want it to be,
State.
yeah, the OpenCBM is buggy. So I have to reset it, okay, it'll work. And I have all this stuff written into Python code and bash scripts, and that does it. So like half the software for this is Python and bash. Yeah, I mean, if using the 54 Ultimate would be great, but it's not significant.
Yeah, not right now.
Yeah, not right now. But the cool thing about that is the 1541 Ultimate is I can reboot the C64 remotely. So if it crashes, I can use the 1541 Ultimate, telnet into it, reboot the system into like a super snapshot of the BBS running at the login screen, and then just like it crashed, okay, telnet, reboot, up you go. So it's like a modern system in that sense.
Question, there's a reboot command?
What's that?
There's a reboot command on the Ultimate?
Not reboot, but you can tell it to run software.
You can tell it to run software.
So I can tell it to run a snapshot of the running system, and it will right back into that state. So I can recover from crashes remotely.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's buggy. so I don't use it. But it's possible, right? It's possible for a day, and then it stops being possible. Yeah.
I'm thinking of setting up my own BBS, somewhat similar to this, except I don't have a real Commodore 64. And what do you think the best way to just set up a BBS without a lot of work would be?
Using Vice and TCP would be the way to go, I'd say. You could use BBS server as well. I don't know how that would work. Does it handle virtual ports?
Well, you probably want to put like a virtual redirect
Uh-huh.
in Windows.
Okay. So with TCP,
I'm
so
going to
you
be
can
using a
easily do.
Linux server probably.
If with Linux, you could TCP sir and Vice, and it just talks to it. You just use the
TCP sir, as in-
TCP sir, yeah.
Yeah.
TCP sir. Actually, I'll show you right. Just that's the end of my presentation. But I'm gonna show you guys a link here, and there is. So I'll show you where you can find it. Right here, if you go to TCP sir. Oh no, hold on. What is it? TCP sir Vice. What? I think it's on his website. Here it is. BBSing with Vice and Linux. So at 1200 baud. This is this guy always. He runs the Afterlife BBS. But his website's great, and it tells you exactly how to do it. So this is the commands you need to put in, and then it tells you how to set it up. And so you just set it up like this, and then you run your BBS software, and it will just work. You can use the same setup. You can use the same method to run terminal software and call BBSs.
Great, thanks.
But yeah, this is how you do it. There's quite a few examples. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, that's right.
Okay. All right. I think we're done.